They say if you remember the 60s, you probably weren't there. Well, if you remember actually hearing the Beatles at Toronto's Maple Leaf Gardens in 1966, you also likely weren't there. Take it from the guy who was there, just 12 years old.
Everybody was taking a picture. And the second thing that accompanied that was the screaming. In fact, you wondered how people could be screaming and taking pictures at the same time, because the volume of the screaming was such that you could just barely hear the music.
50 years later, John Tory has spearheaded concerts and exhibits celebrating the Fab Four's Toronto connections. This was one of the North American cities the Beatles played most, 3 times in total. It was also the site of their first official fan club on the continent.
We can work it out. We can work it out.
But even in the Beatles-loving Toronto in 1966, the cracks were starting to show. Just weeks earlier, John Lennon's "The Beatles are bigger than Jesus" comment appeared in the North American press, and religious communities were up in arms. Ticket sales for their concerts were not as strong as before, and some reporters speculated the end of Beatlemania was near.
It's only really your opinion, and if our popularity does diminish, well, we'll be the last to worry.
Ironically, this author says fan hysteria contributed to the Beatles' decision to stop touring just 12 days after that Toronto concert.
They said, you know, they couldn't hear what they were playing with all the screaming. They couldn't reproduce the sound that they wanted to get out of the studio. It could not be reproduced in front of 15,000, 17,000 screaming kids.
As they prepared for a tribute to the Beatles at the very same venue of that last Canadian concert, the ensemble Classic Albums Live is trying to do justice to the music. Even if you can never quite replicate that day. Sumanac-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.